Hi, welcome to the Action Speak Network. I'm Manazai. So yesterday, Lara Trump of Fox News sat down for an interview one-on-one with Elon Musk. And during this interview, they touched on several topics. One of the main topics they touched on was the future of the car industry. And Elon Musk said that in the future it will be very strange to see a person driving his car by himself because almost all the cars in the future will self-drive. He said this, play the clip.
Well, Tesla in a few months will release unsupervised full self-driving. So the cars that people are driving right now, the cars that you can buy from the factory, will be driving around by themselves with no people in them.
Wow.
We would call unsupervised full self-driving. So there's literally no one in the car on public roads. We'll start that in Austin in a few months, in June. And then we'll rapidly expand that to the rest of the country. In fact, anyone who has Tesla now, if they try self-driving, it should work very well. It should be rare that you need any intervention. So, in fact, in the future, I think it'll be unusual to see a manually driven car.
Wow.
It'll be like seeing a horse.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's still horses. In fact, technically, there are more horses now than there were at any time in the past.
But we don't use them for the same means.
But if somebody came to work on a horse and they didn't live on a farm, you'd be like, that's an odd thing to do.
So in the future, it will be strange to see someone actually driving themselves in a car.
Yes.
Another very important topic that Lara Trump discussed with Elon Musk was politics. And Elon Musk explained his opinion on the policies of the Democrat, especially the former President Joe Biden. To Elon Musk, he believed that the policy of the Democrat is to bring so many immigrants into the country so that in the future there will be only a one-party system. He explained by saying this, play the clip.
If President Trump had not won, I think the Democrat campaign to import vast numbers of illegal voters would have succeeded. And they would have naturalized vast numbers of illegals during the sort of Kamala regime. And they would have turned America into a one-party state from which we could never escape. Some people out there may be somewhat skeptical. They may think, well, there isn't some Democrat plan to subvert democracy and achieve a permanent one-party deep blue socialist state. And I assure you, the more you research it, the more you will see it is true. Biden was simply asleep at the switch. He was ineffective regarding illegal immigration. No, he was highly effective at ushering in millions of illegal immigrants with a specific game plan to naturalize them and ensure that there would be no swing states in America anymore. Often the margin of victory there will be 20 or 30,000 votes. So if you bring in 200,000 illegals, which will overwhelmingly vote for the Democrats, then that swing state becomes permanently blue.
Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, was on Fox News yesterday for an interview. And during this interview, he explained where he believes the young people in America nowadays are getting their news, especially those between 20 to 22. And he also explained the reason why Democrats are losing the younger voters. He said this, play the clip.
Democrats are bleeding the core constituency. Young people for so long have been the cornerstone of the American left. They've always been able to count on college campuses as their main source of energy for activism. Now, it's the main source of energy for the Republican Party and for President Trump, from the Yale Youth Poll, from the Harvard Youth Poll. And to your astute point, Maria, you're exactly right. 18 to 22-year-olds, these are the lockdown generation. They had prom graduation stolen from them. They had to wear masks unnecessarily. They were forced to get vaccines. They had many friends hurt themselves or kill themselves because of the lockdowns. They do not trust the experts. They get their information from places like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and they are now the most solid and loyal base of President Trump's ever-growing coalition.
Retired Lieutenant General H.R. Mark Maxter explained yesterday on Face the Nation that in all administration there are always three groups of people around the president. The people who are there to give him good advice, and good policy advice. The people who are there for themselves and who are telling the president all it is that are going to be beneficial for themselves and for their future. And the third group, the people who are there to protect the nation against the actions of the president. He said this, play the clip.
Do you think that is something that makes him distrust the council? Why is it that he would take the advice of someone like Lara Loomer, this far-right activist who has made racist attacks on some of the members of that council?
Yeah, Margaret, I think there are three types of people in any administration. Those who are there to give the president best advice, those who are there not for that, but want to manipulate decisions consistent with their own agenda. These are people inside and outside of the administration. And there's a third group of people who sometimes take on the role of maybe saving the country and the world from the president. That second and third group, if you have an effective national security decision-making process that gives the president multiple options, they tend to oppose that process. They tend to oppose the national security advisor.
Mike Reed, the CEO of Chevron Oil Company, was on Fox News yesterday where he explained his position in respect to whether the Chevron Oil Company should leave Venezuela or not, which is the current position of the Trump administration. He believes there are two main reasons why the Trump administration should reconsider their decision to ask Chevron Oil Company to leave Venezuela. He said this, play the clip.
President Trump is basically saying no more Venezuela. What do you want to tell us about this Venezuela situation? Can you give us an update?
Well, there's two real implications, I think, that are important for people to consider. One is on energy security. A good portion of Venezuelan oil has historically come to the United States. Refineries on the Gulf Coast are designed to run that specific type of oil, and so it's very important for energy security in the U.S. The changes in the rules mean that that oil won't flow to the U.S. now, so making us less secure. China is actually the largest buyer of Venezuelan oil today, and I think the discussions that you reference, Venezuelan government officials have been in China very recently, encouraging China to buy more. And so as the largest buyer today, the policies could drive even more of that trade to China. The second implication is very important, I think, is a national security implication. And as you mentioned, we're the only American company that remains on the ground in Venezuela, which sits right across the Gulf of America from our country. And if we were to leave, as others have, the oil production continues and American companies are replaced by companies from other countries. And historically, that's been Chinese companies, Russian companies, and others that are not necessarily in America's interest to see our hemisphere ceded to companies from other countries that we don't have the same kinds of relationships with. And so I think those are the two big issues that we need to bear in mind as we navigate this policy landscape.
This is a very important point that you make, especially since China is Venezuela's biggest creditor. And this is sort of China's MO, become a country's biggest creditor and ultimately dominate. And I don't think the U.S. or the Trump administration wants to see China dominating another country.
Well, you're right. We've seen this playbook before in Africa, in Latin America, in Central Asia. And China has created a stronger presence, stronger influence, and control over economies and governments around the world through using their economic assets and position to do so.
Mike, we also responded to the message of President Trump that he posted yesterday, in which he was calling all the customers of Iran, people that are buying oil from Iran, to stop buying oil from Iran. And Mike Will believes that no matter the sanction that they will put in place against Iran, if there are no mechanisms of enforcement, he believes those sanctions will not be effective. He said this, play the clip.
President Trump put out a tweet last week saying this: all purchases of Iranian oil or petrochemical products must stop now. Any country or person who buys any amount of oil or petrochemicals from Iran will be subject to immediately secondary sanctions. They will not be allowed to do business with the United States of America in any way, shape, or form. What is your take on that, Mike?
The point you make, Maria, is, I think, a very important one, which is Sanctions are just words unless they're truly enforced. And we've seen in the prior administration sanctions on Iran, sanctions on Russia, and then enforcement was not necessarily a priority. That oil continued to come into the market, and the mechanisms that were described to try to enforce the sanctions were not effective. And so the oil continued to flow, the revenue continued to flow, and I think the current administration is signaling a different posture, that the sanctions are intended to bite.
The FHFA director was on Fox News yesterday and was explaining the policy of the Trump administration in respect to bringing housing prices down. He explained that there are a lot of fraud with mortgage and FHFA loans. He said this, play the clip.
Well, the number one question was fraudulent FHA loans. Is that something you can talk about?
We are absolutely going to focus on mortgage fraud. Look, there's no room for mortgage fraud. It's crazy. People are saying that they're earning more money than they are, that they live in homes that they don't live in. This stuff has to stop.
President Trump sat down for an interview with MSNBC Christine Walker. And during this interview, they touched on several points. One of the main points they touched on was the journalist asked him that there have been persistent rumors of him considering a run again for a third term in 2028. And President Trump said this, play the clip.
Trump Organization is selling hats that say Trump 2028.
Yeah.
Are you seriously considering a third term, Mr. President, even though it's prohibited by the Constitution? Or is this about staying politically viable?
I will say this. So many people want me to do it. I have never had requests so strong as that. But it's something that, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to do. I don't know if that's constitutional that they're not allowing you to do it or anything else, but there are many people selling the 2028 hat. But this is not something I'm looking to do. I'm looking to have 4 great years and turn it over to somebody, ideally a great Republican, to carry it forward. But I think we're going to have 4 years, and I think 4 years is plenty of time to do something really spectacular.
The Constitution does prohibit it. Some of your allies are pretty serious about this, though, Mr. President. I've spoken to them. They say they are coming up with potential ways.
Well,
obviously, the biggest one would be a constitutional amendment.
That's because they like the job I'm doing, and it's a compliment.
Has anyone in an official capacity presented you with, sir, here are some ideas by which you could actually get a constitutional amendment?
Well, in a capacity of being a big supporter, many people have said different things, but I'm not looking at that.
So during this interview, Christina Walker also asked President Trump what will become MAGA movement after him. He said this, play the clip.
You have built a political movement that has transformed the Republican Party. It's transformed the country, quite frankly.
Political movement in history, MAGA. Make America great again.
When you look to the future, Mr. President, do you think the MAGA movement can survive without you as its leader?
Yes, I do.
What gives you confidence?
I think it's so strong, and I think we have tremendous people. I think we have a tremendous group of people. We talked about a number of them. You look at Marco, you look at J.D. Vance, who's fantastic. You look at, I could name 10, 15, 20 people right now just sitting here. No, I think we have a tremendous party. And you know what I can't name? I can't name one Democrat. I mean, I look at the Democrats, they're in total disarray.
Stephen A. Schmidt was on CNN yesterday on the Jake Tapper show, and he was asked if he's considering a run for president in 2028. He said this, play the clip.
If you were to run for president, though, it would be as a Democrat or no?
You know what? I'm an independent. I'm a registered independent. I would lean, who leans left. I'm fiscally conservative when it comes to my money. I'm socially liberal. I'm liberal when it comes to social issues, pretty much across the board. I believe in living and let living. So I'm a moderate, and I would say if I had to run, it would be as a Democrat. But I'm not happy with the Democratic Party. So the Democratic Party is presently constructed. It would pretty much need to be purged in order for me to assume that I would want to be associated with them and I would garner their support, because I don't like the way they've gone about doing a lot of things for a very, very long period of time. And I think that I don't view Donald Trump as winning the election. I view the Democrats as losing the election, as absolutely positively blowing it with some of their actions. And that's why I think that, again, if somebody was to associate me with that, the party is presently constructed where it leads so extremely left, or at least it spent the vast majority of time doing that. Oh, that is not something that I would vibe with at all. I would definitely be looking to be a game changer in that regard.
So during the same interview, Jake Tapper asked Stephen R. Schmidt the things that he believed the Democrats have been doing that are wrong, and that made him to consider a run for 2028. He said this, play the clip.
What are some of the things that Democrats have been doing that have turned you off and that make you say the party needs to be purged? Who needs to be purged from it, first of all? Do you have any names?
Well, I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to do that to a lot of people. But we know who the extreme left is. We know how they go about operating. We know what we lean towards when it came to open borders. We know that the spending was excessive, even though it's excessive on the Republican side as well. I think a $37 trillion budget, when Republicans try to act like it's just the Democrats, that's not true. But the Democrats certainly shouldn't be absolved from blame in that regard. Certainly with identity politics, woke culture, cancer culture, I thought that was something that ravaged our nation psychologically, because you had people literally scared they were going to lose their jobs if they pronounced the wrong pronoun, for crying out loud. It got that bad, and I think that that's one of the reasons that Donald Trump is in office today, because so much stuff, a lot is focused on the individual as opposed to actual policies itself. I'm talking about what they preached and what they talked to the American people about, more so than what they're doing. The kind of messages that they were disseminating was incredibly uncomfortable to listen to and to hear, and I thought that it wasn't emblematic of what most Americans are thinking about. They're trying to pay their mortgages, rent, buy food and groceries, pay gas, and deal with the prices, the cost of living, and they want safety in the streets. That's primarily what most American citizens are about, trying to live in peace and harmony, and that's not something that I think either side has promoted along the way, and that's why I think the state of the nation is what it is at this particular moment in time.
Then a very interesting moment came when Jake Tapper asked Stephen R. Schmidt if he believed he is ready to be president of the United States. His response is very interesting. Play the clip.
You're a gifted TV sports commentator without question, but are you really prepared to be president of the United States? How would you answer that?
I would say they're absolutely right. I'm not prepared. I'm not qualified. I have no political history whatsoever. I've never been interested in politics a day in my life. How did I come to this conclusion where I've left the door open? I'll tell you how. Elected officials have come up to me. Folks in the streets of America come up to me every single day. Not only that, my own pastor, A.R. Bernard from Christian Cultural Center in Brooklyn, New York, said to me, show respect to people who love and support you by leaving the door open, because you never know what God has planned for you or for us as a nation in the years to come. Just leave the door open. So that's what I did. I know that I have a voice, whether it's on ESPN, whether it's with the Stephen A. Smith Show on YouTube, and iHeartRadio, or any place else that I go. I know that when I speak, millions upon millions of people hear me. One would surmise that they listen to some of the things that I say. And then I look at our politics. How worse can it get? Do you realize right now, and I'm saying this facetiously because I know that you do, Jake, doing what you do every single day. Do you realize that if you are an elected official, your real work is with the campaign? Once you get into office, literally you can get away. I'm talking about the nation's capital specifically, not state and local politics, just the nation's capital. You realize that you can literally go on Capitol Hill, and all your job is to do is to disagree with the other side. You don't even have to do anything else. Whatever the other side feels, you feel the opposite. That's not work. That's not going across the aisle. That's not maneuvering your way through the terrain, through the political terrain, and really negotiating on behalf of your constituency and the American people. All we're doing is engaging in acrimony and hate. And as a result, the American citizens are suffering. So when I look at it from that standpoint, and I think the kind of impact that I could have as a centrist, as a moderate, as somebody who believes in being sensical and engaging in common sense, unfortunately, I believe that if I did take this very, very seriously and I moved forward and I decided that I wanted to be a politician, do I believe I could win? You're damn right. But it's by default. It's not because I'm the most qualified candidate in the world. It's because of the state of our politics in the nation's capital, the politicians that we're looking at, and the fact that we don't believe for 1 second that they are serving the interests of the American people, nor are they interested in it. People look at me and they know one thing. I would be interested in serving the American people and doing what's in the best interest of this country. That means you, that means me, that means the black community, the Hispanic community, the white community, everybody. Because if all of us are rife with chaos, all that's going to lead to is America's destruction. And why would we want to be a part of that? So again, I'm not qualified. There are plenty of people that are qualified, more qualified to be at practically everybody. But are you going to win? And are you going to be committed to doing what's in the best interest of America? I know I'm that kind of person. That much I will say for myself. I'm not interested in division. I'm interested in galvanizing. That's what I'm about. That's what I try to be about. And sometimes you do that by calling it like you see it. And that's certainly something that I have proven I would do. I'd call it like I see it. People would know that.
There you have it. On the Action Speak Network, we give you the information as it is. Our own personal opinion, we keep them for ourselves. You have your own opinion and thoughts. Please leave them in the comment section. We are going to check them out. I will check them out. On the Action Speak Network, we value your comments. Please hit subscribe. Let's get to 1,000. I'm out.